Last winter, I took a job at a 24-hour convenience store on the outskirts of town. The pay wasn't great, but the night shift from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. meant fewer customers and plenty of quiet time to study for my online classes. The store was located on a lonely stretch of highway, with the nearest building being a shuttered gas station about half a mile down the road. Most nights were uneventful, just the occasional trucker stopping for coffee or local insomniacs grabbing late night snacks. One particularly brutal January night, a blizzard hit our area. The snow was coming down so hard I could barely see the parking lot through the front windows. The manager called to say I could close early if things got worse, but I decided to stick it out. The roads were probably too dangerous to drive on anyway. Around 2 a.m., with the storm still raging, the bell above the door chimed. A woman walked in, completely underdressed for the weather. Just jeans and a light jacket, both soaked through. Her hair was plastered to her face from the snow and she was shivering uncontrollably. Car broke down about a mile back, she explained, her teeth chattering. Phone's dead. Can I use your store phone to call for help? Something about her seemed off, but I couldn't place it. Maybe it was how calm her voice was despite her violent shivering, or how she kept scanning the store while talking to me. Sure, I said, pointing to the phone behind the counter. You can come around and use it. As she made her way to the counter, I noticed she left no wet footprints on the floor. Despite her soaked appearance, not a single drop of water fell from her clothes. She picked up the receiver and dialed, turning away from me. I strained to hear what she was saying, but her voice was too quiet. After about 30 seconds, she hung up and turned to me with an odd smile. My friends are coming to get me. They'll be here in about 15 minutes. Do you mind if I wait? I nodded, trying to keep my growing unease hidden. She wandered over to the coffee station and poured herself a cup, still not leaving any trace of moisture anywhere she walked. 10 minutes later, I was restocking the cigarette display when the lights flickered. The woman's head snapped up, her smile widening. They're here, she whispered, though I hadn't heard any cars pull up. The bell above the door chimed again, and I turned, expecting to see whoever had come for her. Instead, there was nothing but swirling snow in the doorway. The door was wide open, but no one was entering. When I turned back, the woman was gone. The coffee cup sat on the counter, completely untouched. The security footage later showed the door opening on its own and the woman simply vanishing from frame. The police found a car abandoned about a mile down the road, just as she'd said. It had been there for almost 30 years. The metal rusted through, with a newspaper from 1994 still sitting on the passenger seat. The story in the paper? A young woman who had disappeared during a blizzard, last seen walking toward the gas station that used to occupy the spot where our convenience store now stood. I quit the next day. Some things just aren't worth minimum wage. I've always been a city person, but last year I inherited my uncle's cabin in rural Vermont. Since I was between jobs and needed a break from everything, I decided to spend a few weeks there over the summer to clear my head. The property was beautiful, 10 acres of woods with a small lake, and the cabin itself was surprisingly modern with solar panels and satellite internet. The nearest neighbor was about 3 miles away, which at first seemed perfect. I could finally have the peace and quiet I needed. For the first few days, I settled into a comfortable routine. Mornings spent reading on the porch, afternoons swimming in the lake, and evenings watching old movies on my laptop. The isolation was exactly what I needed. On the fifth night, I was woken up around 3 a.m. by a sharp crack outside, like a tree branch breaking. I brushed it off as wildlife and tried to go back to sleep, but then I heard it again, closer this time. Then again, even closer. Something was methodically breaking branches as it approached the cabin. I got up and peeked through the blinds. The moon was bright enough to illuminate the tree line about 50 feet from the cabin, but I couldn't see anything moving. Another crack, this time at the edge of the trees. I grabbed my phone to call someone, anyone, but of course, no signal. The satellite internet was down too. I was completely cut off. For the next hour, I sat in the dark, listening as whatever it was circled the cabin, breaking branches at regular intervals. Sometimes it would stop for 10 minutes, making me think it had gone, only to start again from a different direction. Just before dawn, the noises stopped. When the sun came up, I cautiously went outside to investigate. What I found still haunts me. In a perfect circle around the cabin, at exactly the same distance from the walls, branches had been snapped off trees and placed on the ground, pointing toward the cabin like arrows. In the dirt beneath each branch was a crude drawing of what looked like a stick figure. I packed my things and was about to leave when my phone chimed. Signal was back. I had 3 voicemails from the local sheriff's department, all left the previous afternoon while I was swimming. They were warning all residents in the area to stay inside and lock their doors. A patient had escaped from a psychiatric facility about 20 miles away. The patient had a history of breaking into remote homes after marking them with strange symbols and stick figures. As I drove away, I glanced in my rearview mirror. Standing at the edge of the trees watching my car was a tall, gaunt figure. In its hand was a broken branch. I sold the cabin the following month. Some inheritances aren't worth keeping. I work as a night security guard at a small office building downtown. It's not particularly exciting work. I make my rounds every hour, check the doors, and spend the rest of the time watching videos on my phone or reading. The building itself is old, probably built in the 1940s, with lots of creaky floors and strange noises that I've gotten used to over the past few months. Nothing about it seemed particularly creepy until 3 weeks ago. It started with a knock. 3 clear, distinct knocks on the main entrance glass door at exactly midnight. When I went to check, there was nobody there. I assumed it was just some kids playing pranks and went back to my desk. The next night, same thing. 3 knocks, exactly at midnight. Again, no one was there when I checked. The third night, I decided to stand by the door at 11:55 p.m., wanting to catch whoever was doing this. Midnight came and went. Nothing happened. Feeling satisfied that my presence had deterred the prankster, I went back to my desk. The moment I sat down, 3 knocks echoed from the far emergency exit on the opposite side of the building. That's when I realized something was wrong. The emergency exit is alarmed, and the sound would have triggered it immediately. Plus, it opens onto an enclosed courtyard with no public access. I pulled up the security camera footage, but the emergency exit camera showed nothing, just an empty hallway when the knocks occurred. Night after night, the pattern continued. 3 knocks at midnight, always from a different door, never visible on camera, never triggering alarms. I started to dread my shifts, knowing what was coming. Last Tuesday, I asked my supervisor about the building's history. He was reluctant at first, but finally told me that years ago, before the renovation, there had been an incident. A security guard had fallen asleep during his shift, and 3 employees working late had been trapped when a fire broke out. They had died at the exits, knocking desperately for help that never came. That night, for the first time, there were no knocks at midnight. Instead, my relief didn't show up for the morning shift. When I called the office to report this, they told me something that made my blood run cold. There was no morning relief scheduled anymore. The building owner had decided to cut costs and eliminate the morning security position 3 weeks ago, the exact day the knocking started. They had been trying to reach me for weeks to tell me my shift had been extended to 8 a.m., but my phone had been going straight to voicemail. I checked my phone. 37 missed calls, all exactly at midnight, when I always turned my phone to silent so I wouldn't miss the knocks. As I hung up, 3 knocks came from the door right behind my desk. I turned slowly, already knowing what I would see. 3 figures stood behind the glass, their features blurred as if seen through smoke. They raised their hands in unison and knocked again. 3 times. Just like they had on the night they died. I gave my notice the same day. Some jobs aren't worth the midnight shift.